What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be reading some of your guys' hot takes and giving my thoughts on your hot takes. We haven't done this video in a while, so I'm excited to read some of your guys' hot takes. And if you guys want to be in a future hot takes video, just watch out for my YouTube community post and you can leave your hot takes there. But without further ado, let's get into reading some of your guys' hot takes. And the first hot take is Florida State will not be relevant for at least 10 years. Recruiting is getting worse, the culture is horrible, and the coaches really aren't that good. It's really hard to predict what can happen within 10 years, but it's definitely going to be hard for them to come back from this horrible season. They aren't necessarily bad at recruiting, but they have been trending downhill in the recruiting trail. They aren't necessarily recruiting up to their standard right now. They have had multiple decommits, and right now they only have the 26th best overall class in 2025. And their best quarterback commit is a 3-star quarterback, so that's not looking too great for them. I don't think they have a quarterback of the future, and Mike Norvell really needs to figure something out at the quarterback position. Luckily, the transfer portal does exist, and it's going to be hard for a program like Florida State to stay down for 10 years. Mike Norvell has used the transfer portal effectively, but it didn't work out this year. So there is still hope for Florida State, but I don't see them getting back to having double-digit win seasons anytime soon, so maybe I agree with you. The future of Florida State football is not looking so great, and they might be down for a while. The next person says, within the next 3 seasons, 2 Group of 5 champions will make the playoff at the expense of a Power 4 conference champion getting left out. And honestly, it could happen this year. If Tulane or Army wins the American Conference, they might be able to sneak their way in over a 3-loss Big 12 champion. But that's depending on what happens in the Big 12 title race this upcoming week, because they will need help from the Big 12 losing games. And if Arizona State wins out and they are 11-2, they will be a lock for the playoffs. A Group of 5 team will not get in over them other than Boise State. But the Big 12 has been very unpredictable, and I could see a 3-loss team possibly winning the Big 12. And that leaves the door open for a 2-loss Tulane team or a 1-loss Army team to possibly sneak their way in as the 5th conference champion. So maybe there's a world where the Big 12 champion doesn't get into the college football playoff, but I don't know if the committee is going to allow that to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised to see 2 Group of 5 teams in the playoffs within the next 3 seasons. I don't necessarily agree with there being an auto bid for the G5. I feel like they should earn it. But regardless, that is just my opinion, and there is still a lot more we have to learn about this college football playoff. Because we have never had 12 teams before, and it will be expanding to 14 teams very soon. The next person says Army wins out and makes the playoffs. Arizona State wins the Big 12 and misses the playoffs because they aren't ranked high enough. Well, Army did just lose to Notre Dame and will likely be unranked this week. If Arizona State wins out, they're in, and I have no doubt about that. Army will absolutely need chaos to unfold if they want to sneak their way into the college football playoff as an auto bid. The next person says Darian Mensah gets a bag and leaves for a power conference school, giving Ty Thompson the big opportunity to lead a current top 5 scoring offense in the country. Darian Mensah is only a freshman, but he has been an absolute baller for this Tulane team. He is one of the best G5 quarterbacks. And honestly, I think Tulane is better than Boise State. I think Tulane is the best Group of 5 team right now. Ty Thompson has gotten 40 carries for this Tulane team in 2024, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did become the starter in 2025. And he could definitely get more reps passing the ball because Darian Mensah is potentially a future star at quarterback. And I don't know if a young quarterback like Darian Mensah will stay at a Group of 5 team like Tulane. Because Darian Mensah is potentially a future star at quarterback, and he has put up great numbers for this Tulane team only as a freshman. Ty Thompson hasn't gotten the opportunity to start in his career, but he has been learning a lot, and he is a vet in his own right, and I'm sure he'd be ready to step up for this Tulane team when needed. So I could totally see this scenario taking place because that's just how college football is nowadays. This next person says, my Texas Longhorns will win the SEC this year more than likely. And I will say it is possible for Texas to win the SEC. They are the only team in the SEC with only 1 loss right now. But they will probably run into a huge problem, and that problem is playing the Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta, Georgia for the SEC championship game. We saw what happened when Texas played this Georgia team. They got dominated at the line of scrimmage. And personally, I have to roll with Georgia to win the SEC over Texas. The last time Georgia met Texas, Georgia's D-line absolutely dominated Texas' offensive line. Georgia's offense has also looked much better lately, and they looked much better against Tennessee. Carson Beck has been protecting the ball and not turning it over. And I'm telling you, if Georgia can stay consistent and Carson Beck can stop turning the ball over, then Georgia will be dangerous and they can win the Natty. This next person says SMU is a top 10 football team. I actually have SMU ranked inside my top 10 right now. They've had one of the top offenses in the ACC, and the defense has continued to get better. They just absolutely dominated Virginia, holding them to 7 points. And SMU has been one of the best in the country at forcing turnovers. Kevin Jennings is one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in college football. He is a very good quarterback. And I think SMU has the edge over Miami because SMU has the better defense. But they also have the offense to keep up with Miami. They have a very high-powered offense that has been scoring a lot of points this year. Look, I think SMU is the best team in the ACC, and I also think they are a top 10 team in the country right now with the way they have been playing and dominating teams. And they've played many teams above 500 on the schedule, so they necessarily haven't had a cupcake schedule. I don't think they've played any ranked teams, so we'll see how they do when they play Miami. But they have been dominant and they've had some quality wins, so I do think SMU is a top 10 team. This next person says if Army wins out, Boise State gets left out. And Army did just recently get dominated by Notre Dame, so this isn't really possible anymore unless Boise State doesn't win their conference. I never had Army ranked anyways because they haven't beaten anybody and I don't think they are that good. And I don't even think they are the best team in the American Conference. I think Tulane is certainly better than Army, and honestly, I think Navy might be better than them too. Navy is more two-dimensional on offense, and I wouldn't be surprised if Navy actually beat Army. And personally, I just don't really see many realistic paths for Army to make the college football playoff anymore. This next person says Kansas beats Colorado. Home field advantage, and they've been playing like the Kansas team we thought they would be. Everything you said in this hot take couldn't be any more true. Kansas did beat Colorado, and Kansas is honestly playing like the best team in the Big 12 right now. It's too bad that they ruined their first half of the season with all those one-score losses, but the turnaround that they have had has been great, and people still need to give props to Lance Leipold, because he is still an excellent football head coach, and this Kansas team has come a long way with him. And we also have to remember Kansas hasn't even had a football stadium this year. So I believe that actually might have derailed their season in some way. It will be interesting to see how Kansas moves on to the future with all these seniors leaving. My question is, will Lance Leipold keep this team competitive in the Big 12? Or will he become the head coach for another team in college football? This next person says Devin Dampier would be a Heisman finalist on Ohio State and would lead them to a natty. And this person is talking about the New Mexico quarterback who is an absolute baller and an athlete. But I don't really know if he has the talent in the passing game to lead an elite team like Ohio State all the way. He has ran for 100 yards and 16 touchdowns on the ground, but he's also been very turnover prone, throwing only 12 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. So that really isn't a great stat line as a passer, and he's also only had a completion percentage of 57.7. He's still young and he could definitely improve in the passing game, but I don't think he is a very skilled passer. And I think Ohio State would need more out of a quarterback than just an athlete that can run the ball super well. This next person says Maryland needs to have a better offensive and defensive line next year and fire some of their coaching staff if they lose their last 2 games. And also Alabama will hopefully win all of their regular season games next year. Maryland has had a pretty rough season. They lost a lot of their seniors from last season, including star quarterback Tualia Tagovailoa. The line of scrimmage took a big step back this year, and they will likely be finishing with a 4-8 record. So there's definitely work that needs to be done there. But on the topic of Alabama, I don't see them going undefeated in the SEC next year. Kalen DeBoer obviously has some work to do with this team, and I don't think anybody will go undefeated in the SEC because of how stacked these conferences are. And it's only going to get more competitive in the coming years in the SEC. So I will say I completely disagree with you. This next person says Michigan is going to be significantly better next season, almost entirely due to how it seems like they are going to spend tens of millions in the portal and should be able to get a new quarterback. And it's absolutely hilarious that you said this before we heard the news of 5-star quarterback Bryce Underwood committing to Michigan, and Michigan definitely offered him the bag. So most of what you said in this hot take is already turning out to be true, and I'm expecting Michigan to be much better with 5-star quarterback Bryce Underwood joining the team. Maybe they won't put it all together next year, but the future is definitely looking bright for Michigan. And I think this coaching staff will acquire some of the pieces necessary, and they will have some guys returning as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they won double-digit games in 2025, if not 2025, then 2026. Now let's read the last hot take of this video. This last person says Indiana wins the Big Ten. Well, this is looking very unlikely with the way they got absolutely handled by Ohio State last weekend. Indiana needs both Ohio State and Penn State to lose this week, so this isn't going to happen. But luckily, they will probably be a lock for the 12-team playoffs as long as they beat Purdue next week. Indiana is a great football team and Kurt Cignetti is a great football coach, but there's certainly work that needs to be done in recruiting and they need to acquire more talent. But let's give props to Kurt Cignetti because he should honestly win Coach of the Year. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's hot takes. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.